I want to welcome you to the relaunch of the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. I'm Scoot. I started this over a year ago, and I was hit by a motorcycle crossing a street in downtown New Orleans and seriously injured. And now I'm finally back. So I'm getting back to this. But there's going to be daily content here. I'm very active on Facebook, Scoot on the Air, Instagram, Scoot on the Air. And this is the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. I'm a radio talk show host in New Orleans. I have been on the air in Philadelphia, Miami, Seattle, Portland, Denver, San Antonio, San Diego. I have been all over, and I'm back home in New Orleans. And because of the COVID crisis, I'm here social distancing in my apartment in downtown New Orleans. I'm glad you're with me. Just a real quick introduction. I was in music radio for many years, and music is still part of my show. It's politics and pop culture. And this really is an extension of the radio show that I do on WWL, AM, FM, and radio.com. And wherever you are, you can download the app radio.com and just type in WWL. And then you'll have us wherever you are. You'll either like me or hate me. There's not much in between. You'll either agree with me or disagree with me. Not much in between. I'm a registered independent. I'm a radical moderate. I refuse to become part of the political tribe on the right or the left. And that's what they are, political tribes. The right and the left don't determine elections. You and I do. Those of you who are more like me. Moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, independents. We are the radical moderates because we actually have opinions when it comes to every issue. We just don't view every issue through the same myopic political perspective. Those on the right and those on the left are generally hypocrites. And I just want to be honest about politics and everything that I do. And here on this YouTube channel, I will be honest with you. It doesn't mean that I won't make a mistake, but if I make a mistake, I'll correct it. There's going to be no fake news here. So let's get started. I want to talk today about the passing of Little Richard at the age of 87 from complications related to bone cancer. Little Richard was a pioneer in rock and roll. And Little Richard did not get the credit he deserved. Neither did Fats Domino, who's from my hometown here in New Orleans. These guys were some of the pioneers in rock and roll, but since America was dominated by whites, black artists didn't get the credit they deserved. Now, they've gotten more credit over the years. But Little Richard is one of those who deserves credit for being one of the early architects of rock and roll. They basically invented it. And people like the Beatles and Mick Jagger and the Stones so recognized that they were doing R&B songs. The first concert the Beatles ever did, 1964, Washington Coliseum Stadium in Washington, D.C. First song they played was Roll Over Beethoven. White kid growing up in the suburbs, I thought the Beatles wrote that song. Twist and Shout, thought the Beatles did it. Long Tall Sally, thought the Beatles did that. No, those were R&B songs the Beatles discovered. They knew the wisdom in this music. They appreciated, and they introduced R&B to young kids in the suburbs. There's been some criticism of the Beatles and the Stones and these groups for cultural appropriation. The majority stealing an identity from the minority. They paid such tribute to these artists. I guarantee you, Little Richard never hated getting a check because the Beatles did his songs. Chuck Berry never hated getting a check. Irma Thomas, who is the soul queen of New Orleans, Irma Thomas wrote and sang "Time Is on My Side," one of the Rolling Stones' early hits. She never felt like they were ripping her off. So instead of cultural appropriation, I think it's better to look at that as cultural appreciation. I hope you will join me here on this YouTube channel, Scoot on the Air, SOTA. We'll have some merchandise in the future. And subscribe. It doesn't cost anything now. Maybe that'll change one day. But you could be one of the early members of this. You could be on the ground floor of what we're starting here. And all of this really is an extension of my radio show on WWL, politics and pop culture. Um, Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, Mick Jagger, they all wrote flowing reviews of the influence that Little Richard had on their lives. Paul McCartney even saying that with Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, and Good Golly Miss Molly, Little Richard came screaming into my life as a teenager. I learned his dance moves. I learned to entertain. Mick Jagger gave him credit. Even Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan was a subtle folk singer. You wouldn't have thought that he would have been influenced by Little Richard, but Bob Dylan tweeted out, "He was my shining star, my guiding light when I was a teenager." His was the original spirit that moved me to do everything I would do. And so now we come to appreciate the Black artist in America that made such an incredible contribution to the foundation of rock music, that was part of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and even to a large degree today. And so it's sad that we didn't give them credit they deserved. Rest in peace, Little Richard. You were a pioneer. Little Richard was also a pioneer when it comes to the androgynous look. I mean, the guy wore guy liner and mascara and a wig, and that androgynous look was really popular in the 70s and through the 80s, and to some degree is today. But Little Richard was a pioneer with androgyny and rock and roll. I hope you're doing okay with the coronavirus pandemic. I hope you're going to find a gift in this. You know, every challenge that we face has a gift. Sometimes we have to look for the gift, and the gift is different for all of us. There may be one gift for me and one gift for you, but there's a gift in most of the challenges that we face. Maybe it's bonding with your kids. Maybe it's realizing that you worked too hard and didn't stop and notice a lot of little things in life. This is literally and figuratively a time to stop and smell the roses. And so, as tough as this is, I hope you find the gift in this. A lot of places are reopening. A lot of controversy over whether to wear a mask, don't wear a mask, social distancing. Is it BS? A lot of people aren't paying attention. Many of us are. I choose to wear a mask. Not everybody is. I choose to social distance. Not everybody does that. President Trump and Vice President Pence have come in direct contact with people who are now COVID positive. That defines them as people who should self-quarantine for 14 days. They're not doing it. They're also not wearing masks. Is it like not macho? Is it like, does it show a sign of weakness to wear a mask? I don't think so. I mean, if Trump's not embarrassed by his hair, why would he be embarrassed by wearing a mask? I mean, I'm not embarrassed by this hair. I'm not embarrassed by wearing a mask. I do what I feel like I need to do. And there's enough information out there indicating that wearing a mask and social distancing does work. A lot of stuff is starting to open up. Are the numbers going to get to the point where we have to start closing down again? I certainly hope not. And since the president is our leader, I think he should do a better job of sending a message that wearing a mask is important. President Trump, like me, is a germaphobe. And there are reports that he's not happy at all that somebody who was COVID-19 was serving him his food and was that close to him. And then Mike Pence has been close to him, and Mike Pence has now been in the presence of somebody who's COVID positive. So coronavirus has penetrated the White House. Let's hope it doesn't spread. Thank you for joining me here on the new relaunch of the Scoot on the Air YouTube channel. I appreciate you being with us. We'll be here every day with new content. Some of it's going to be fun. Some of it will be more serious. But basically, it's going to be, politics and pop culture. And I appreciate you being with me. I do hope you subscribe. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.